Welcome to another Saturday edition of The Real Deal. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Play that intro. Let's get started. Let's go. All right, welcome to another episode 102 of The Real Deal. I am your host, as always, Courtney Harding. Glad to be back on a Saturday. I hope everyone is safe, healthy. I want to send, first and foremost, I want to send my prayers and condolences to all the ones that were affected by Hurricane Ian in Florida, South Florida, and all those things. Just devastating what the hurricane has done to all those that were affected. So I hope everyone is safe. Everyone has got shelter because there was a lot of damages, and praying for recovery, praying for shelter, and those that, like I said, that were affected by this. It was very devastating. So I wanted to do that. It was the ones that were affected in Florida and South Carolina and North Carolina. I know it hit up the coast here. And then the rain's coming here up the East Coast, up in Philly and other states up there as well, up here as well. So again, prayers and thoughts to all the people that were affected by this. And we pray that recovery and shelter and good health as well. Shout out to all those who are tuning in. Thank you, Miss Mocha Bella, for tuning in as well. Loyal listener. Also, my man, the NR Hour himself, Nathan Ramachandra. He does tremendous work. Follow him on Jersey Sporting News, the NR Hour Sports Show as well. He has great content and just a great podcast. I've been a part of that as well. He says, happy football weekend. Yep, we're going to get into a little bit of that. We're going to get a little bit of some NBA. Can't wait to get my guest on. Prayers for Florida. Miss Mocha, I know you're down in Miami, so hopefully you're safe and your family is safe as well. And I know Nathan, he also has family and friends that live in Florida. So again, yeah, thoughts and prayers to all those in Florida. So you can follow the show, as always, on BS3 Network, BS3Network.com. Shout out to Ben Sutter and the entire network. We just our network and it just has so many big. We got so many shows, so many different media personalities on the network. Now the network has grown since it started back in 2019, and now it's been 3 years, and it's just building. It continues to keep building. So follow the show, and we got shows for just about everybody and anybody. If you want to be a part of it, hit us up on social media, bs3network.com. We're live. We do all the show. We have shows about sports, spirituality, movie and TV reviews, travel. We have food and shows. We review the different types of foods. We got a lot of different things. I mean, a lot of everything. Politics, social issues we talk about. I mean, whatever the topic, we have a show for it. So again, the network, bs3network.com. So follow the show, follow the network, follow the shows there. You can follow my show at Get the Real Deal on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Follow me, Courtney110979. We're on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, anywhere you can get podcasts, we are there. So again, we're on Roku, live on Roku, live on YouTube, Roku, BS3 TV, BS3TVLive.com. Yeah, so anywhere, anywhere you get it. So without further ado, like I said, I got a very, very special guest. We're going to be Boston Ballin' right now with my guest. She's the host of Boston Ballin'. She does some work for ESPN. She does a lot, and not just just Boston sports. She does a lot of different things and a lot of different topics. She touches on sports and uh, politics. I mean, she does a lot of a lot of things. So I want to welcome to the show, back on the show, Miss Gabby Hurlbut. What is good, Gabby? How are you?
Courtney, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for coming on. I know you said you've been having some Wi-Fi issues. I'm not sure if you're getting some of this rain from Hurricane Ian and everything too, because I know
Yeah,
we had
it's
yeah.
yeah, you have no idea how many rooms I cycled through to make this work. So
Yeah, no, but I'm glad to get you on. I'm really excited to have you back. Like I said, it's been a little bit. I think the last time we did a show, I think I was on your show maybe a couple months ago. So,
yeah.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for, like you said, I'm glad that you're safe. And it's like I said, Wi-Fi issues, and it's been a crazy week, especially for the ones in Florida and others. So, but I'm glad to get you on. So, how are you doing?
Good. I'm doing very well. Yeah, like you said, been busy, definitely still grinding. But yeah, it's good to be back on, catching up, still rolling with Boston balling. So things
Yeah.
have been going really well.
Yeah, I'm glad to, like I said, glad to get you on. Boston Ballin has just done so well, and since you started in 2020, and now we're here in 2022, and I mean, did you even imagine? I'm sure you did, but imagine like what how Boston Ball has grown so much, and how much you've just put in, and all the guests you've had. Like I said, I've been on the show like 3-4 times, and I mean, you've gotten so many guests, different guests from the Boston area, from outside the Boston area. You talk about, like I said, you talk about Boston sports, but you also talk about the social issues and just a lot of different topics you touch on. But talk about the Boston Ball and how much it's grown over the last almost 2 years now.
Yeah, it's definitely been crazy. I definitely, when I started it, did not expect it to be where it's at now in terms of the following that it's gotten, in terms of, just the types of guests that I've gotten on the show. I think it's been really cool to be able to talk to a lot of different types of people, just make a lot of different connections and just learn people's stories and things like that.
Mm.
So it's been a really good experience. It's crazy to think it's been almost 2 years since I started it. I remember when I reached out to you to get advice on starting a podcast, and I
Yeah.
feel like that doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it really kind of was. And it's crazy to think about how much has passed since then. But I'm really, really happy with the growth of the show and kind of where it's going.
Yeah, and like you said, the growth of it and the guests you've had so many, a variety of people and a variety of different, like I said, different guests from different genres and different things. And like I was excited that you were able to launch the podcast, and you had the confidence to do it. And like you said, I mean, yes, you did ask me to for advice, but you had, I mean, you've had it all. You had it all. You just had to just do it, and you did. And now it's, like I said, it's grown, and you've been to a lot of different places, a lot of different platforms. It reaches different places and overseas. I know you told a story about how you reach people from overseas, and it's a
Yeah.
very popular show. And then you promoted it on different other. How does that make you feel to get the love and the respect to be in this podcast space?
Yeah, it makes me feel really good. I feel like kind of building a brand and starting a podcast on your own can be difficult. And being able to really develop that following and kind of establish yourself in the podcast space. I feel like with the success that I've had, I'm really hoping to kind of send a message to other people that they can do it too if they're really passionate about it
Yeah.
and there's something that they really enjoy talking about that they could talk about all day, every day. And looking back on it, it really was at the beginning difficult to, start to develop that brand. But the more people who follow the show, the more people will be attracted to it after that because people will share it. And so it's been a phenomenal experience, really.
Yeah, it is, and like you said, like, I knew once I interviewed you the first time, and you were like, "I want to start a podcast." I was like, "Why not? Just do it." Just find that. You said that you had to find what you wanted to, what you were passionate about. You're passionate about sports, and you worked in sports, and you know sports, and so it was just for me to you, it was an easy transition just to do it. You just had to find, okay, what am I going to talk about? Am I going to talk about Boston? I want to talk just for sports in general, but like your knowledge of sports across the landscape is tremendous. So I knew you were going to be successful. So I'm glad that you were able to grow Boston Ball into what it is today. So keep doing what you're doing because it's a tremendous show. And you got another, you always got another fan, Nathan Ramachandra. He says Boston Ballin', and so he definitely keep up the amazing work. So yeah, shout out to the NR Hour and what he's doing as well, and just to be a part of this space. So what's next for Boston Ballin' now? Like I said, it's going to be 2 years coming up. When December, right? It's going to be 2 years,
Yep.
and what is next for you and what you're looking to accomplish with next year in 2023?
Yeah, it's definitely crazy to say that it's been almost 2 years. Thinking
Yeah,
about a lot of goals in terms of the show. Specifically, just expect more kind of mixed guests in terms of bringing in people from other fan bases to talk about different rivalry games and things like that going on. I've done a couple episodes like that, and they've been definitely successful to be able to get other fan bases involved and other people listening to the show. So definitely planning on doing some more episodes like that where if one of my Boston teams is playing a rival team or something like that, just doing a preview with possibly guests that represent other fan bases. So that's definitely something I'm looking ahead to, as well as just a cool mix of continuing to get just a cool variety of guests from the Boston sports scene as well.
yeah, definitely. And it's just that you've had like I said, a variety of different type of guests. Just that covers ball. A lot of them cover Boston sports from all four major sports, but they even just even outside of that too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what you got coming up. So like I said, I'm Boston balling with Gabby. So it's only right. Well, before we get into Boston sports, because Boston Celtics, they've been in the news a lot lately. And I've been wanting to get your opinions on this. Like, I don't know if you said much about the Emi Udoka situation. So I mean, unfortunately, the things that's happened, that's transpired. But I know that when me and you talked and we were trying to get this going, you said, I'm not going to say anything yet until I get all the story and everything too. I said, well, this would be perfect. So to have you on the
Yep.
show and get in. And we're going to talk about the Celtics but let's talk about Tua. And we just had the Thursday night game. And it was the Dolphins and the Cincinnati Bengals. But Tua Tagovailoa just sort of suffered a major, scary concussion, and he was out there playing. Shouldn't have been for me. Shouldn't have been out there because getting banged up the way he did on Sunday's game against the Bills, and then 4 days later he's playing back out there playing. What was your take on Tua? And now, like when he got that dangerous, it was a dangerous play, dangerous hit, and when he fell, his body just froze up, he seized up, and he was just out. That was scary. It was like the game didn't even matter after that. But it was like and our thoughts and prayers to Tua and his family too for full recovery. But he suffered a major concussion. What was your thoughts on the whole thing with Tua and should he been out there playing in your opinion?
No, I'm pretty appalled as to why they cleared him to play.
Yeah,
I think it was the writing was on the wall that he shouldn't have been playing in the first place.
yeah,
That was really tough to watch live, extremely tough to watch. I was a little bit disturbed that they kept showing the replay of it after because that's not something
yeah,
that you really want to see over and over again. I'm really, really scared for the guy. I think, the Dolphins training staff needs to be held accountable for letting him play. I
yes,
think it's going to be really unfortunate if, you know, if this prevents him from being able to play again. I'm not sure exactly. I don't think that the MRI results came in yet, but I think, it's really, really unfortunate that he very clearly after last week's game should not have been playing. And I don't know why they did let him play. And it's just really heartbreaking to see something like that happen because, you know, I mean, who knows when he's going to be able to play again if he is. This is a pretty serious thing, and it's really hard. And I really hope that the NFL really buckles down on that concussion protocol now because that was just extremely tough to watch.
Yes, it was very tough to watch, and you're right. I think someone has to be held accountable. Whether it's the Dolphins, whether it's that independent doctor that that cleared him, because the concussion protocol. The NFL talks about player safety. They talk about we want to keep our players safe. We want to keep them before we get them out there. It was clear that he suffered concussion in that Buffalo game. Like he got up and he was wobbly. He looked like in that game on Sunday, he looked like an MMA fighter, a boxer who gets their bell rung, and he gets up, and you clearly knew it was a concussion. Like, and then they're saying it was back and neck injury. Like, come on, it's like
Yeah, that's what annoyed me too. It's like
yeah,
it was not a back and neck injury; it was
no,
a concussion.
no, that does a back and neck injury, and like I said, not without doctors or anything like that. But you don't like he stumbled, and you knew like right away. We've watched football long enough, right away that that's a concussion. There's something not right, and he shook his head, and then he wobbled, he fell, he got up again, he wobbled again. They said he cleared all concussion protocols, and even afterwards, I don't think 4 days clearing concussion protocol. We've seen players, it takes them weeks to clear, at least a full week to clear. Now, if he played Sunday, maybe, but it took a week before you clear concussion protocol, the way it is now, extensive as it is now. So, and they had an independent doctor come in, and someone brought up, I can't remember who it was. Somebody brought up that it was, you have Tua. I think it was Michael Wilbon. He said you have Tua's doc. Probably he has his own doctor or physician. They have the Miami Dolphins have their people, medical staff, and then the independent. How independent was this? This that's what I want to know. Like, how independent was this concussion protocol with testing? How was it? So someone's going to be held accountable. I know Miami Dolphins coach came out and said, I would never put a player out there in danger if he cleared all protocols. I don't believe that. I really, really don't. I know you said the same thing. You don't believe that he cleared it in 3 days.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think they knew behind the scenes. Somebody knew really what the situation was. And I think that they just cleared him to play too early. And at the end of the day, it is also an integrity thing that it's like,
Oh my goodness, yeah.
A player's safety is more important than winning football games. And you should not be jeopardizing that to try and win a football game. It's not worth it. And I think every single football fan that was watching that game is just absolutely appalled by the situation.
Yeah, and I know Miami Dolphin fans. I was on Twitter, and some people were, uh, were going at each other because they have the same thing that we have. They're like, well, you guys are not doctors. No, we're not. We're not saying that. We're just looking at it from the outside, but looking like this was not right. This is just common sense. Common sense should say this is not right at all. Nathan brought up a good point. He's there's going to be a loss. I did the NFLPA is suing. Or at least looking into it, investigation. He said one of his friends brought up a point the other day when it comes to Tua, saying his lawyers will file a lawsuit. Yeah, there's going to be some lawsuits going on. Shout out to Ben Southern as well. He says, "What's up?" Thank you, VS3, for
He's
tuning
awesome.
in. Yeah, he's got his show coming up. The NFC Beast, as don't need to brag. My Eagles are doing their thing. I think they're the only undefeated team left.
Yeah.
So now with the Dolphins losing Thursday, but like I said, the game was less important because of Tua and the injury now. So now it comes to the point where there's going to be investigation. The Dolphins are going to be investigated on, and the NFLPA is going to be involved. And I know Roger Goodell hasn't said anything, but you're right. I think the NFL, well, the teams usually they don't put player safety at the most important thing. They say it, but it doesn't act upon it. They're worried about the money. That's all about the money. The Thursday night games are all about the money. Let's get two out there because they want to win instead of a person's livelihood. And I think the more important, I think that's the issue right there. That's totally wrong.
Yep. And at the end of the day, they are football players, but they're also human beings.
Yeah.
And their safety should always come before anything else. And it's really sad to see that that's just not what the league is about. And I think everybody stands with Tua in this. And what Nathan said, I think that's 100% true. I think a lawsuit of some sort should be filed and will be, rightfully so. And I think if I'm Tua right now, I'm just absolutely infuriated with my own team and the fact that they put me out there to play, and the fact that it really is risking ruining his career. And he's so young too, with so much ahead of him or could have had, and just to see something like that happen is just really, really heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking. Yeah, I agree. It's hard to put it in words, like what were the Dolphins and what were they thinking of putting them out there so early, and then because this could be a long-term effect. We hope not. This could be a long-term effect. We've seen it happen to so many football, like I'm watching the coverage yesterday from some former players and on shows talk about why they got out of the game so early, because they suffered concussions and they suffered injuries, and it's scary. And then it goes to for youth football too. It goes down to that level where a lot of parents don't even want their kids playing football at all because of how dangerous it is, and it can be. And it's a physical sport, it's a contact physical sport, and these guys they feel like if they get an injury and they could be replaced. And I think that's why they got to go back out there. But it's like you said, they're human beings first. It's so dangerous you get knocked in the head so many times, and then it's the head trauma and head injuries and so many blows to the head. It's his head. I mean, that was a scary situation. We are wishing to speedy recovery. Yep. So, all right. Well, let's get into some of these other topics I wanted to talk to you about. Let's talk about your Boston Celtics, the Ime Udoka situation where he is suspended for a year, having I still think there's still more details coming into this story. Had a relationship with a staff member, and now there's talk about sexual harassment maybe, or some things like that. I think there's still a lot to this story. Like I said, you're a Boston fan, you cover Boston sports. I definitely want to hear your opinion on this. So what do you think of this Udoka situation, the suspension? Do you feel like he should be just fired? And do you think he will be back after the year-long suspension?
Yeah, the whole situation is definitely dicey. I think, like you said, there's still more that needs to come out about the situation. I think slowly more and more details are starting to trickle in, because initially when we only found out that he had a consensual relationship with a female staff member, that at the end of the day doesn't really seem like it's that bad if that is in fact true. That it's not, this huge thing, like it could be a lot worse. But then as you find out more details about the situation, it's like, well, if they are suspending him for a year, I think there's more to it than that. There has to be, because it doesn't seem like something like that would be a cause for a year-long suspension. I do think there's still even more now that we don't know, that we're going to find out. You have to wonder really how long this was going on for, how many people were really involved. But I think, when it comes to the suspension, I almost feel like that's a little bit too in the middle in terms of the punishment. I think you either have to straight up fire the guy or just wait and see what happens, like in terms of more information coming out, and then do something. Because I almost feel like a year-long suspension is sending a message of like, oh yeah, we're going to suspend him for a year, but then he possibly could come back. And then that would just be awkward for everybody. I feel
Yeah.
like at that point, because everybody knows the situation and knows what happened. And I really don't feel like with how much exposure this got that there's a lot of recovering for him. I do think it was handled poorly by the media at first. I don't think it should have been released to the media until we found out more information about the situation and knew really what was going on. But I do also think if they that they're by choosing to suspend him for a year, it's almost like, okay, we're going to bring in an interim head coach, but it's like, then what happens? The year-long suspension is over, and then
He
he
comes
comes
back.
back, and then
Yeah.
it's like an awkward situation for everybody. The players, I mean, if I'm a player, then I'm going to feel awkward with that situation. If I'm a fan watching the games, it's like I'm not going to be able to stop thinking about that. So it's almost like now I feel like because of how much this blew up and really what we're starting to learn about what happened, it's almost like I feel like it would be best if they just part ways with the guy
Yeah.
and just start on a clean slate, because there's that mess is going to follow him regardless, even if he does come back after a year.
Yes, I liked everything you said because I agree with everything you said because I think there's still more involved with this, and yeah, I think the media did kind of because they didn't have all the variables, they didn't have all the story, and then a lot of people jumped to conclusion. I like what Matt Barnes said, where he thought, okay, this is really messed up. They're suspending a guy who, at the time when it first, like I said, when it first released, that he had a consensual relationship with a female staffer. Okay, and then they're like, "Oh wait," he said, "I jumped." He said, "I jumped to the conclusion because I think the things he heard and the things he it said, from a source, he thought like, oh, okay, I jumped the guy. I apologize. If these things like could be like you said, sexual harassment or sexual misconduct, some type of that type of situation, then yeah, this guy needs to be not just suspended, probably like you said, fired." Uh, so there's still a lot to unpack in this whole thing. I did, and I know he made a kind of a vague. He made a vague apology in a statement, almost like, I take full blame. Then that's all I'm going to say, and I'm like, I apologize that anybody that I hurt or anything like that. And he said, I'm just gonna go. So it's almost like the Celtics are like, just go away for a year, and then we'll come back to this. It's like, no, that this is a messy situation that you just didn't handle properly. And then they came out and had a press conference, said we're suspending. This type of behavior we don't condone or anything like that. But like Stephen A said the same thing. Either you fire him or you don't.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. There's not
Yeah,
really an in between. I feel
yeah,
like
in between. Yeah,
sure.
suspension is almost like an in between. Almost
Yeah.
you go away for a little bit, but because I think there is more to this story. I think there is going to be some other things coming out. Um, maybe with this whole situation. So it's very messy, it's very dicey. We don't have all the information. But if he does come back, you said the baggage is there. It's still there, and how are the players going to react? That's who your Celtics organization. How do they come out of like through this? Because they're going to be have to answer questions. I know they had to answer questions on media day. It happened right before media day. It's a mess. It's a total mess. So what do you think of that? Like how the Celtics are going to handle this move? I know they're going to move forward. They have to because the season starts in like 3 weeks. But
It's crazy.
yeah, they're coming off a finals run. So how do you think they will be able to handle this situation? And because it's going to be a cloud over them for a while.
Yeah, it's honestly really unfortunate because as a coach, he really seemed like he could have been the answer for this team. I mean, he brought them to the finals in his first year as a head coach. I mean, he had a phenomenal season with the team. It seemed like the players really respected him
Mhm.
as a coach. And so it's really unfortunate that he would put the team and the organization through this. For the players, I really feel for them. It's going to be hard for them, I think, because now they're going through yet another transition when they just went through a big transition a year ago. with having to deal with a new head coach coming in to the system, Brad Stevens taking on a new role. So I almost wondered at first if Brad Stevens was going to be the one to step in for a year and kind of
Yeah.
take over while this whole thing is unfolding. But I do like him in the position he's in. I think he's made some good moves in terms of the team and who he's brought in the time he's been in his position. But I am worried for the players. I'm worried for the chemistry of the team because now they're going to go into this season with kind of this burden on them that, like, look, this happened to a coach that just brought them to the finals. Like, how are the players going to adapt to that? Like, I wouldn't blame some of the players if they're like, I don't want to deal with all of this. This is a mess. And it's really, really unfortunate because I think it's going to affect more than just Ime and his career in the sport, because now you're looking at a team that had so much chemistry, had a really special run to the finals, even though they
Yeah.
came up short against just strictly a more experienced Warriors team. But they surprised a lot of people last year, and they really showed that they really do have that potential to get there. And now they have gotten there. But now it's like, how are they supposed to block out this huge distraction when the season is starting? So I really am worried about how the season is going to go because of the aftermath of all of this for the players.
Yes, very well said. And just some comments here. He said, yeah, if you guys want to get into the comments, please do, because we would like to hear. But a couple comments or questions. I feel for the Celtics women reporters. Amanda Flugrad put out a inspiring post. Yes, I
I
did
saw
see
that.
that. Yeah, yeah, that's she covers the Celtics as well. Shout out to Ivan Dawkins, King Dawk. Thank you for tuning in. Part of the BS3 network. Have a couple of shows, so check that out. Nathan also said Joe Muzella will be fine. He knows the players,
Yeah,
and he
which I
said,
agree with.
"Yeah,
But
yeah, I agree with that too." But like you said, chemistry. It's a they had respect for Ime, and now they have to like almost kind of start over in a certain way. Ben says this is horrible timing for all of this. Yes,
yeah,
totally.
yeah.
Season's getting ready to start, and then this bombshell happens, and now it's like now they got to deal with that. And he said, shout out to Amanda for that inspiring post she put out. Yeah, that's everyone check that out because she definitely she covers, like I said, she covers the Celtics as well. But let's talk about the Celtics in this upcoming season because, like I said, high expectations. They got to the finals. He said Ime was a big part of that because he, got the respect from the players. He definitely he called out Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for their selfish play. And me and you, we talked about this we did Instagram lives throughout the finals. We did shows throughout the final. We did so much. We were talking about how much the Celtics turned their season around mid-season, and they were the best team in the East. And now that they're coming in, like I said, high expectations, coming back with most of the core and all of the core back really. So they were going to make this run, and now this happens. But the players are still there. The growth of the team: Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart. They picked up some players, and Malcolm Brogdon. They just picked up Blake Griffin. Now, Robert Williams though, but is dealing with another injury out, maybe possibly 8 to 12 weeks. That's a big blow because I thought like if they need him in that anchor as well. Gallinari, which we talked about in the off season, was a big piece, but now he's out for the year. So the Celtics now got a lot of question marks. So as you said, Celtics fan and one that covers the Celtics, what do you think of the Celtics upcoming season?
Yeah, I'm a little worried, for a lot of those reasons that you brought up. I
Mm-hmm.
think, coming out of last season, I was really optimistic
Mm-hmm.
when the season ended, just because of what they did do in the season that they put together last year. And I was really looking forward to what they can do this year. I mean, the Eastern Conference is still stacked, but they
Yeah.
showed that they can get out of a really tough Eastern Conference, and they did it. I think Rob Williams is that whole situation is a huge loss. He was a really significant part of that finals run last year. I think Blake Griffin is a good piece to add. I mean, he's obviously kind of past his best days of basketball, but we don't need him to be his best. We don't really need him for that because he's not really going to be an everyday player all season. I think he's really here to help fill that hole while Rob is out. But I think his veteran presence, I think, is going to be good for the locker room. He's somebody who hopefully can kind of help them move past all of this that's going on, behind the scenes with Ime and everything. I think he's somebody who has been around the sport for a while. And so I think that's going to be good for this team. I think, there's going to be an adjustment period. Again, I think I'm a little bit worried about them when it comes to the rest of the Eastern Conference because the other teams in the East are still going to be there.
Yeah.
They're still really strong. I think if they start off too slow, it might be a little bit hard to kind of get back into it because of how tough that conference is. So I think the start to the season is really going to be telling in terms of where they are at from a chemistry standpoint, where they're at with being able to adapt to all of this. So I really do think these first couple months of the season are going to be telling. I think obviously last year they didn't have a good start to the season, but they were able to turn it around. I think that's going to be more impactful this year if they don't have a good start, just because there's so much more that took place in this off season. So I'm definitely not as confident going into this season as I was right when the season ended last year.
Yeah, I think you got the Ime situation, but then losing Robert Williams for that long, at least going to be 2 months. It was 4 to 6 weeks, and then they said 6 to 8. Now it's 8 to 12, and so I think that's a huge blow. But yeah, getting Blake Griffin, I think, Blake Griffin would be a big pickup with Rob Williams out. Yes, Blake helped out. I think he helped Brooklyn when he got a chance to play, but he has to stay healthy. He's another veteran that's got to stay healthy. He brings some toughness. He's not the Blake Griffin from the Clipper days, but he does bring a veteran presence to what they need, some toughness as well. And he can shoot the three. I agree with that. That I felt like, and me and you were talking about this before, that Gallinari was a huge pickup. Like that was because that could have alleviated some of Al Horford. Now Al Horford doesn't have to play so many minutes, and I think because Al Horford had a really good year last year, but can he, Al Horford's getting up there in age too, and can he play those major minutes again? I don't think they want him to. So yes, reading Blake Griffin was fit in, but I thought Gallinari would have been a huge pickup. But getting Malcolm Brogdon, though, I think that was the best pickup because that, we said that the Celtics needed ball handling. That's what they got exposed against the Golden State Warriors. Ball handling, and as good as Marcus Smart was, it was hard for him to get the offense rolling. Malcolm Brogdon can do that because he's that type of point guard, ball handling and more shooting, and that's what Malcolm Brogdon brings.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think he addressed a huge hole that this team, a huge weakness that they had. And like you said, yeah, that ball control was terrible in the finals. That's really what kind of held them back. I think overall they were a pretty evenly matched team with Golden State. I think that they did a good job of giving them a run for their money. I don't think the Warriors were a significantly better team than them. I just think obviously they had the experience, and also the Celtics could not control the ball for a lot of that series. Just too many turnovers. And that didn't really only happen in that series. That happened a lot in the playoffs. In general, I think they just could not control the ball on the offensive end. And so I think Malcolm Brogdon is going to bring something really, really good. They really needed somebody who's a true point guard to step into that role. And that's not a knock on Marcus Smart. I just think that Marcus Smart was not really equipped to be in that role. And I think Brogdon's going to really be able to kind of help bring this team together a little bit more from a cohesiveness standpoint on the offensive side of the ball. So I do think I like the moves that they made. I think they didn't. I'm not really sitting here thinking they didn't do enough. I think they addressed what they needed to address going into the season.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's more about the off-court stuff that I'm worried about, but I do like what Brad Stevens did to address what needed to be addressed this offseason.
Yeah, agreed. And I think you're right. On the court, they did fill the holes because of the turnovers. Like they turned the ball over at such an alarming rate in the playoffs. The games that they lost, there was high turnovers, and the Warriors took advantage of it because the Warriors, they were a high turnover team too. But when they would win, they weren't turning the ball over, and they were a good defensive team as well. So I think you said that got exposed. Like Mark Smart had a tremendous year. He was defensive player of the year. He proved so much, but then the turnovers, Tatum turnovers, Jaylen Brown turnovers, and I know Tatum and Brown both said, we have to work on our ball. And I know Jaylen Brown, he said he's worked on his ball handling, and so now, but they have Brogdon now that takes pressure off of those guys. Because even Derek White, not a true point guard, but a combo guard. But Brad, you said Brogdon brings that that veteran leadership, and also on top of that, he's a better ball handler than a Marcus Smart and Derek White. So I think that to me was a big part of it. And Gallinari would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
He was a yeah, really good
It's
ball
really too
handler
bad.
too. Yeah, it's so bad that and I know he's got a lot of injury history, but but Grant Williams now there's a lot of something for him to step in. A lot of pressure for him to step in. Now he's going to be in there. He's going to play a big major role. You said but now getting Blake Griffin, and and now Tatum now has to step up even more as a superstar. Taylor Brown again step up even more as a superstar. So the Celtics are in a good position, but you're right. The East is so loaded, as you said. It's like so loaded up at especially at the top. Cleveland's improved, getting Donovan Mitchell. So you don't really how that's going to work out. You still got Brooklyn. Brooklyn's still going to be, as much as they got a lot of issues too, but they're still super talented. The Sixers and Toronto and the Bulls and the Bucks, Miami. I mean, these are just some of the teams in the East. That's like 7, 8 teams. That might be your 8. And then the Celtics are right in the mix too. So it's going to be an interesting season. I can't wait. Can't wait to see how this turns out. So just one more topic I want to get into back to the NFL and your New England Patriots. All to a slow start. I know they're on a slow start. So injuries now is creeping in, and offensively they've looked up and down. They've had an uneven season so far. Mac Jones injury. He's talking about he might play tomorrow. I was him. I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit out. Let's see what happens. But what do you think of the Patriots' start so far?
Yeah, to be honest with you, this is about kind of what I expected from them to start the season. I was talking about this on my podcast actually once. Somebody asked me, one of my Patriots guests asked me what my prediction was for their first 4 games, and I said realistically, I think they go 2-2. Now it's looking like it might be 1-3 because tomorrow's game could be really scary. Considering the circumstances where they're playing, the fact that it's the Packers are just tough at home regardless. But
Yeah.
I think obviously the circumstances with Mac Jones aren't great. I was actually at the game last Sunday, the Patriots Ravens game. It was really it's tough to see somebody go down in general, but it's definitely tough to see somebody go down like that. I don't know why it seems like the injuries right now are at an excessive amount through the first 3 weeks, which is really unfortunate. But I think obviously the Patriots backup quarterback Brian Hoyer has been around the team. He knows the playbook. So he's it for right now until Mac. Who knows what's going to happen with him? I don't think it's as bad as it looked initially with Mac, which is good. But I think this offense needs work still, a lot of work. I think losing Josh McDaniels is proving to be detrimental. I think I was worried about that because when he was calling the offensive plays, he did a really, really good job with this team. So I think right now the defense overall has actually looked pretty decent to start the season. But I think from an offensive standpoint, they're just kind of getting throttled right now out there. I think there's a lot that needs to be done from an offensive standpoint to fix this team right now. I think we're looking at a team right now that's definitely average at best. The division is obviously tougher. Buffalo, I still think I see Buffalo winning the division. I think the Dolphins obviously are up there now as well. And even the Jets, I think, are a little bit improved. Still are going to finish in last, but I think that they are improved from obviously the Jets that we're used to. So I just think in general this team is definitely average. I don't really, as of right now, see them being a wild card team unless they really fix the offense. So it's definitely disappointing. Who knows, obviously, what's going to happen there. But I think Belichick right now is, he's getting up there. We don't know. Like, I'm convinced the guy's going to coach until he dies, but who knows really what's going to happen there. But I think, I need to see some changes offensively because they're kind of getting throttled out there by other teams right now to start the season, and it's concerning.
Yeah, it's very concerning, and you said they're in a tough division. The way Miami started, Buffalo, we knew going into this season was one of the favorites
Yeah.
to win it all, and they look really good even against Miami. They still had a chance to win that game. So
Yeah.
yes, and the Patriots. I mean, I would never count Belichick out, but yeah, losing John McDaniel, I think, is more concerning and more is hurting more. Even though his Raiders are not doing well at
Yeah,
all
gosh,
either,
I know.
and I know maybe he's a better offensive coordinator than he is a coach.
Yeah.
Him coaching before it didn't work out well. So, but he's a great offensive mind. It's just that the Raiders are just. I don't know what's going on with them either. They're just all over the place. It's we thought that division itself, the AFC West. I mean, Denver's they look a mess offensively with
Yep.
Russ. The Raiders look a mess. Kansas City, okay, they'll get it going, and then the Chargers they're dealing with major injuries. So
Honestly, everybody at the beginning of the season was like the AFC West was going to be the best division in
yes,
football, but everybody's a mess right now in that
yeah,
division.
Denver's 2-1, and they're winning games like 11-10 and things like
Yeah.
that. Russell Wilson looks. I mean, the offense. I should say the offense. He doesn't look comfortable yet, and the offensive game plans look bad, and they got so much talent, but they don't. They're so uneven. But you're right, and I think the injuries with a lot of these teams is at an alarming rate, and I think that's just the lack of practicing and preseason and it's and we don't like preseason at all because injuries happen there too. But no tackling and in training camp, I think it's hurting the league in some way. Now there's been some good football, but it's injuries are just piling up at such a rate. But yeah,
Yeah.
go back to your Patriots. It's like you said, it's just it's uneven. The offense just doesn't look right at all. They don't know if they want to be a running team. They don't know if they want to,
Yeah.
put more on Mac Jones to throw the football. They have two solid running backs. They just don't use them. It's that
Yeah.
split. It's that split. Because I had Ramondre Stevens. I had him on my fantasy team, but I dropped him. I think somebody just picked him up because now he's starting to get more of the,
Yep.
more of it. But you just don't know like who's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I did one of my dad's fantasy drafts for him this year because he couldn't do his draft
Yeah,
that night. And I put Ramondre Stevenson on his team, and he was a little hesitant about that pick. But I was like, no, I think he could have a big season. I think he could get a lot of productivity. Had a great game last Sunday.
yeah,
So I think I think he's a solid pick. But yeah, like you said, it seems like there's some indecisiveness going on with the offense. They can't decide how much
yeah,
trust they want to put in Mac. I still would like to see them put more trust in Mac to be able to throw the football because
yeah,
I think he's more capable than what they're giving him credit for. But I think, I really like Devonte Parker. I said this already too. I said I really liked that pickup in the offseason because Mac really needed a true wide receiver one, and I think Devonte Parker really can be that guy. I mean, he had a good breakout game last Sunday as well. So I really like him. I just think they need to make some more definite decisions on what they actually really want to do and commit to it because now they're kind of half-assing like a mix of a lot of
yeah,
different things when it comes to the offense. And I would like to see them trust Max still more than they are right now.
yeah. And Bill Belichick, and I know, you had Tom Brady for so many years. Like, yes,
Yeah.
I mean, you had him for 20 plus. You had him for 20 years. So it was Belichick's offense and their offense with Tom Brady and that dynasty of 2 decades was something. That had a lot to do with it. But now you start. Belichick is a great coach. Like he's one of the, if not the best coach in NFL history. It's just it's hard to see that. Like, it's almost like he's going to turn this around. And maybe it's going to take a few years. Maybe it will. You lose Tom Brady, and then, yes, to replace the GOAT, it's hard to do that. But it's going to take, maybe it's just taking, I guess you guys were spoiled. You guys were definitely spoiled
Yeah.
with having that and winning so many and having Tom Brady and Belichick together for so long. And now it's going to take a little bit longer to but you got to let Mac Jones, you got to let him be. And I think that was the problem with Seattle with Russell Wilson. They didn't let him. Yes, he did win a Super Bowl and they got to 2, but there was still some they were still like, "Are we a defensive team? Are we a running team? We're gonna let Russ cook." It's like, what are you doing? Like, but you wanted that staple of defense and running game, which you do want, but these days you need a guy that can throw the football. You got to have a quarterback that's got to be able to throw that football all across the field. And I think that's what the Eagles' problem. Well, that's what it was. Now they're letting Jalen Hurts
Yep.
develop and let him get like, yeah, we've got to see what he has. We've got a lot of talent around him. We've got these talented receivers and a tight end and a solid running game and offensive line. You got to let Jalen Hurts do his thing. Let him do his thing, and he's learning now. So I think that's what Mac Jones. They got to let Mac Jones, like you said, let him develop and give him more leeway to make plays. I think that's the only way you guys can win.
Yep, I 100% agree. I said this last year too. I said I kind of understand it to an extent because he's a rookie and
Yeah,
they weren't really sure what he has. He needed to adapt to playing in the NFL and adapt to the Patriots playbook, which we know is really complex. But I think, offensively, it's probably an adjustment for him too, not having Josh McDaniels there either. And
right.
so I just think that Mac is capable of more than what they're letting him do right now. But I agree with you. I think that is how they're going to win games, is kind of loosen the reins a little bit
Yeah.
on him and let him show what he can do, because there's no way for them to really know that, or for him to develop in the best way he can without them kind of loosening those reins a little bit. So I would
Mm-hmm.
definitely still like to see more of that. It'll be interesting to see how they adjust to that as the season progresses. I mean, Belichick's press conference the other day was hilarious because it was such a Belichick type of press
Yeah.
conference when they were talking about Mac, and he kept saying it's day by day. I mean, I'm not a doctor,
Yeah.
I can't tell you. But I think Belichick, I think he knows obviously what the weaknesses are with this team, and it's hard to rule him out, especially because that team, I don't think a lot of people expected them to even be a playoff team last year.
Right.
So I do think that they will make some changes. I would just like to see those changes happening sooner rather than later. And this week, I'm a little bit scared for tomorrow's game. But I think there's definitely some opportunity to be able to kind of let Mac really do his thing out there.
Yeah, and then you're right. The press conference Belichick did, it's so on a Cincinnati type of thing. It was like
Yeah.
he's day to day. He's day to day. It's like this. He's not gonna give you much. I don't know why. I don't even know why the media members are trying to get information from him.
Honestly,
He never talked about the injury report. He never talked about any of those things.
they should
So
know this by now.
yeah, you should know this by now. Like, come on, like the guy's not going to give you anything. I mean, they kept Tom Brady on the injury report all the time, and Tom Brady
Yeah.
was never hardly not injured. He
Yeah.
just it's just a tactic. He knows what he's doing. He's a genius when it comes to that. Like he manipulates the media. He knows what he's doing on the
Yeah.
Cincinnati. On the Cincinnati, day
Yeah.
to day. He's day to day. I'm not a doctor. Day to day. He's going to give you the same answer. It's like Rasheed was when he said both teams played hard. Like they know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing, and the media just feeds right into it. And
Yeah.
there we go. So, but Gabby, this has been again. I'm glad to get you back on. This has been so much fun always conversating and talking with you always. And that just like I said, with the NBA season starting, and this whole thing with Emi Udoka, I knew we just had to, we got to do something
Yeah.
again. And they said, I always get you on right when the Celtics start, the NBA season starts. But let everyone know where they can follow you, find you, follow you on social media, the Boston Ballin and all that, and what you got coming up in the next week. I know you have your guest book, but what you got coming up?
Yeah. So Boston Balling, you can find on any podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, whatever you prefer to listen to podcasts. There's also a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to Boston Balling there. Um, and I do a live stream on Facebook of the show when I drop new episodes. So you can follow Boston Balling on Facebook as well. I personally am on all those platforms, at Gabby Hurlbut 10 on Twitter, at Gabby underscore Hurlbut 10 on Instagram, Gabby Elizabeth on Facebook. And so Boston Balling also has pages on all of those platforms as well that people can follow there. So I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm always active on social media, always sharing sports related content on Twitter. So you can follow me on those platforms. Yeah, Boston Balling, definitely a lot coming up, a variety of guests. a couple new types of guests coming up in the next few weeks that types of people I haven't really had on before. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to be doing a lot of football talk in the next couple weeks. Basketball coming with the season starting. I have a couple Celtics guests coming on that are scheduled. So definitely going to be a fun time in the next few weeks with the show. So looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring up your Boston Red Sox because they didn't have a good year
They did
this
not.
year. They did not, and I know it. I know you cringe because the Yankees are
Yeah.
back at it again, and they have a good shot to win it. And Aaron Judge, and I know you're a big baseball, baseball fan, and I know this is a historic year for Aaron Judge and what he's doing and everything too. But like I said, you cover everything. So Gabby, follow her everything, follow her takes, because like I said, she gets into it with certain fans too, and especially Yankee fans. And but just a great follow, and the shows is great. Like I said, I've been a big part of it. And I always love being on it, and I always enjoy the guests you have and everything too. So much success on the show, and looking forward to what's coming up in the next months and year. So again, thank you, Gabby, for taking the time on this dreary Saturday here on the East Coast. Yeah, it's very dreary, very cold here, but yeah, I really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's always such a good time with you on the show. We always definitely have good conversations with each other always. So I appreciate you having me on again.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime, you have an invite always. Anytime. I know every time I ask you, you get on, and vice versa. So I always like to return the favor. So, but I really appreciate it. And like I said, best of luck with the show and everything else. And enjoy the football weekend. I know college football and NFL. I'm in for this weekend because it's just too cold and rainy. So
Yep.
I'm in watching some games and some TV. So but again, thank you, Gabby. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a great rest of your weekend.
All right, you too. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right, that is a wrap for the show. Thank you to Gabby for coming on. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone that tuned in. Really appreciate it. Episode 102. We got more great content coming up within these next few months. NBA, everyone that knows I'm a big NBA. That's my favorite sport, the NBA season. So I'm locked in, getting all my previews, and going to have some preview shows. Thinking up this project coming up this month, right before the season start. I did this with the fantasy football. I did fantasy football. Women of fantasy football had a round table, had great guest on as well who covers who is in the fantasy football. So this month I'm doing the women of NBA, women of basketball. So just reaching out. So you're going to see a lot of content with women in basketball, women in NBA, who covers the sport, who writes about it, who are fans, just in general, some of the best in media, best fans and all that. So just reaching out, and you're going to see a lot of people that have been on the show before, and some of my favorites that's in the NBA. So be on the lookout for that coming up as well. Just more great guests this month. Again, follow the show on all social media platforms. We're on bs3network.com. Follow all the content there and all the shows there on BS3 Network, bs3tvlive.com, or on the Roku channel, BS3 TV. Download the BS3 TV app. You get all the streaming shows there, like Spotify, Google Play. Just Google The Real Deal with Courtney Harden, BS3 Network, and you get all the content there. And like I said, I'm active like Gabby on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's it. Thank you again to Gabby. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. Thank you to everyone that was in the comments. Really appreciate it. Just the love that's there. The love is just back. So again, that is a wrap for the show. Thank you everyone that tuned in. Peace. Everyone stay safe. Prayers for those affected again, that was affected by Hurricane Ian. We pray for recovery, and we pray for safety, and God bless.